Napo akasa. Na wakan sempa. Wonu say Akufo-Addo times say kusiye. According to Napo kusiye. Again, wabobo niema bi so a you can clearly see Napo in a very reflective mood post NPP defeat, you know. There are some of the points to raise here I legitimately agree with them. There are some of the points and so I partially agree with them. There are some I absolutely disagree with them. I'll give you the data. I'll give you some bit of numbers and context to it. But I like this version of Napo. I call what churches. We come to Musa 10 months, no, and everyone's busano. I say after 10 months, when you reflect why MPP are somehow kind of first, no, and a man who said, this man has indeed reflected. What did Napo say? That is what we are going to interrogate today or this morning on the critical analysis. Make sure so best subscribe. Once subscribe now, click the notification. The video be tuma. Ubehu na wetimi ashebi. Ubiya, you certainly have a comment after watching it. In time where you are commenting in the comments. Let's keep it across. Ubiya no go up and the Play Store. Wanna pan rate is the best platform. Ubenya at the ascend this cabefi. All the major meeting platform set up send the word remittance as we call me individual website and or pan rate and abo sika nishima. All the major meeting platform to rate be more. What you see about now what the Edi Juma. Napo was the running mate of Dr. Bawumia in the 2024 elections at NPP Koyan. After 10 months, certainly, as running mate, the Obi Vice President, but on any team, by any own assessment, I believe that the executive summary of Okwe report on also Wahupi, the Shanti regional version of the report on also Mekrama Hubidia. I can also believe that Napo Humbi or summing all together. No. Enwa okasa PMS first na never antibusan say 10 months akwotena akire no e den na wohu na Napo nsam a okaye no very deep and revealing thing tie me wi a me ba wa bekire ma kire.
The 2024 elections though, you were the running mate. You've had 10 months to reflect, and we started by you telling me about the relaxing period you've had to reflect. I wonder when you reflect now on what happened during that elections. What is for you in the last 10 months as you've done the reflection? What stands out for you as we could have done this better or done this differently? What would you say has been the most abiding feeling that comes to mind when you reflect on 2024?
One thing that's come conclusive in the last 10 months is that there was a broken trust.
Citizens to party?
Citizens to government.
To government.
The trust that was broken hurt so much so that we saw the results.
What broke it?
We didn't listen enough. We assumed a lot of things we shouldn't have assumed. Probably our purpose was a bit challenged for us. We have descended, we had gone through the worst global economic climate, medically and economically, or health-wise. Governments around the whole world have been toppled and changed, apart from probably dictatorial governments, autocratic governments. The economic milieu had changed dramatically. A container from China that cost 1,200 logistic-wise had risen to 14,000. People's lifetime savings had been wiped out. People had died in their droves that had never been seen before without a military crisis or world war. So a lot of things had happened. And I say that if you take the context in Ghana, we did so well under COVID that it became a commendation of even advanced countries, how we tackled that. But like I say, you can win a battle and lose the war. So post-COVID, we saw the results very, very early in the 2020 elections, where we came from a majority of over 1 million people to less than half. And because of the decisions that we had to take or we took, we bore the consequences of those decisions. Revenue evaporated especially in a country where your revenue mainly comes from your pot duties, levies and charges. Expenditure went through the roof because unlike other countries, even in Africa, in America, developing world, teachers, nurses were paid for. Nurses went to work, but even teachers who stayed at home for 5-6 months were paid. Civil service offices which closed were still paid. The expenditure ballooned, revenue vanished, evaporated. The economic conditions were harsh, were terribly harsh. Terribly harsh. And a developing country like ours, remember that in 2017 when we came into government, we were undergoing a physical straitjacket of an IMF formula. Just when we escaped and we were growing at 8%, 9%, with so much hope, it was shattered with this health pandemic. So all in all, maybe we didn't listen enough to what the Ghanaian really wanted. Maybe our leadership that was spectacular and stellar at the COVID times was not good enough for Ghanaians at post-COVID. And it's happened. It's not the first time it's happened in this world. Wartime generals, field marshals, victorious Winston Churchill after the Second World War, lost dramatically after that in an election. The people you lead in time of war are not those same people you need in time of peace. Expectations differ. And if you're a leader, if you're a government, and you don't listen, and you don't read the times, the job that we do is based upon public perception. You can lose. You can lose not because of dramatic faults that you've done, but just because people are unhappy.
What got in the way of listening?
Events, I would say. Let me say events. Because I'll give you a classic example. What would take 88 of our MPs, the first time in the history of this country, to openly, publicly do a coup d'etat against his own government?
Against the Finance Minister?
And the history was that because the economy was bad. I laugh at it today, and I said, for those who are blaming Dr. Bawumia for the economic mess, and especially people like yourselves who sit in front of, behind megaphones, who have a voice, say, oh, he promised this, he was giving us lectures, they say, the fundamentals are bad. But the 88, recall, if it's not true, tell me. We're saying Ofori-Atta must go because he was the leader of the economy. True or false?
True.
They didn't say Bawumia must go, did they?
Yeah. It was a campaign against one man.
It was a campaign against one man.
And by the way, it reflected the general mood of the population at the time.
That is what I'm trying to catch you. We didn't even listen at that time. We didn't listen enough. Such that our own, under the colors of NPP sitting in parliament, had to break ranks. Wasn't that a coup d'etat? It was a coup d'etat against the government.
The president should have listened and let Ofori-Atta go.
Maybe. Because the consequences was that after that, we never found our rhythm.
Would you say that was a turning point?
I can't say that, my hand on my heart. I wouldn't say that. But that was the culmination of a broken system, of a broken trust.
You said
when a shepherd turns ahead,
and
the sheep are gone, what does he do? He finds out where the lost sheep are. If you don't find where the lost sheep are, you come back home, and your father will not talk about the sheep you brought back. He will talk about the sheep you lost.
Yes. So that is Dr. Matupuk. No, can first metroto and no numerical do come if you do gami postinam to my bread, me no more life, my brain. Too sharp, most of my trato. Most still me co save a woman. Or say, broken trust. We didn't listen enough. We assumed a lot of things. And all the COVID-19 expenditure, COVID-19 issues, the BEM, and all the coup d'etat, the 88, which I classify as under not listening. I just broken trust. Intuition in some mission, because was the running mate to Dr. Bawumia Madamfo, he was trying to isolate him from the problem. But if you say trust, how did the trust build in MPP? Nobody can convince me that in 2016, Akufo-Addo did campaign than Bawumia. No. Bawumia took the campaign by the bull and the horn and campaigned really. The lectures, the doc or referendum, Mekadoka Dr. Napo. Now, for reference, that was what was part of building the trust in Ghanaians. It's lectures in Naka. They all contributed to Odo amount for NPP Musa John Mahama wana nyadia on Bombe ni. So that love people had for the NPP, the trust they built, according to you, upon your reflection, are breaking. Bawumia was part of building that trust. Memakawa answer as to why he wasn't given certain commanding control like Ken Ofori-Atta. I can never fathom. Me can't want for them attempt to say me defending the almost every single reason. Adoma kuba if they be born the echira okay Ken Ofori-Atta sem. Enwa confronting CEO okay Ken Ofori-Atta sem. Napo or driving seat in tie where so you see a coup d'etat. Say Akufo-Addo create the 80. Look at the push there broke 88 members of parliament because these are men of high repute. Omnom na Akufo-Addo kwa 2020 no. Omo can president and you see that tells you the overriding confidence that President Akufo-Addo had in Ken Ofori-Atta against all odds. And you see where we sit, and I'm kind of life on this. We know certain information, but when we share, certainly you'll be insulted and everything. But as a journalist, you shouldn't care about it because that's the fact. Why will Bawumia go and sit in Peace FM and say he left the papa? But now Finance Minister, that same week to implement. He wasn't listening to some of the cases. I didn't say he wasn't listening to all the time, but some of the cases he wasn't listening to. And when you're a key observant in all these key people within the NPP, it tells you something. It tells you something. Why is everybody mentioning Ken Ofori-Atta? Why? But the man didn't listen. And you see, the angle of the buyer about the MPs, the 88, it is important because these were representatives of the people. And not this time Eugene Boateng to someone no can also form someone Ken Ofori-Atta. And when you read the Ashanti regional version of the MPP report, the executive summary, Ken Ofori-Atta was mentioned. And this is the biggest World Bank of the party electorally, this is the biggest World Bank of the party. And the key MPs from this region kept saying that they were not listened to. They were not listened to. COVID-19. You did a fantastic point. Every country suffered. But why did Ghana record a bigger deficit than any other country? Because see, March 12, 2020, a first case, we saw a political avenue. Our country, the almost election be running a budget. More than that. Why? We always see vote. That is also true. Let me give you some numbers. Look what the Ministry of Finance website almost say it here. Ministry of Finance. Between Auditor General report, between March 2020, I was correct. The first day we recorded the 12th March 2020 to June 2022. June 2022, Ghana recorded 21.8 billion. In fact, to pay the right figure, 21,844,189,185.24 cedis. Send ye DC cano, ye spending 53.8% on COVID-19 related expenditure and a 46.2% on budgetary support. Some of the key highlights, NSA, senior staff and other support staff of Ministry of Information, it's your allowance of 151,000, say risk allowance. Chief of staff are approving. Oko local government ministry, almost spending 285 million on non-COVID related expenditure. So it wasn't as if Ghana didn't also get support. At least for the auditor, we had almost 22 billion from various sources. But how we expended the money was the issue. So I agree. You did well. You pay teachers, nurses, obia pay koye, no money juma. I agree. We certainly would have run into a deficit. But kakrana yenya, how did we spend it? Fiscal discipline was absent. That is also true. Pay the Auditor General report, and you can pick it. It's still on the website of the service. So that is also true. Again, the issue about we didn't listen enough. That is true. At a point, we'll be on MPP disagree with professional Jeremy and this phone card on certain them. Every single person, including the president. And I was very surprised that you join him through speech. So I didn't know speech na President Akufo-Addo to me Kenya when you from. Say, CS a complaint, they are professional Jeremias. Today, the same CS was NPP so among Kasa because NDC nya there. The same CS also. But they didn't listen. You know why? They had power. And that's why I always say that when you have power, you need people who will sit back. They be an who are thinkers, who have opinions of because massa, there be. Because when you have power and you're not careful, it tricks you. Go for catching people for power can trick you. They didn't listen. Everybody who disagreed with the MPP was a stooge of Mahama. The same trajectory. Then this year started. And when I make life, the same trajectory. Insult, name calling. Sir. You didn't listen. Again, as somebody was I kind of say, let me pick my phone. I say people's pensions were wiped out. I never come me Ken Ofori-Atta. Charlie, what's been penny in some other? To date, they Joy FM. I think about last week. They don't read the budget in the 2 days, the Tuesday. Copy video ni bineti. Pensioners complaining. I'm a who say meeting radio. Maybe I'm a young man in my early 30s. When was the last time I would say a Chief Justice? Charlie, let's not downplay some of the decisions of Ken Ofori-Atta and the economic management team. When was the last time you saw penny for picketing for the first by Ghana? One more black race who got treasury bill. Your confidence with black banking sector was under him as finance minister. See Chief Justice said code demonstration is akem. Now he knew what he been pennies and chroma. And the MPs were not listening to. In fact, some of the people who led it were sabotaging their constituencies. Because I can't Ofori-Atta. And I'll give you an instance. So on this channel, Opa, every single person or talking about MPP defeat or Ken Ofori-Atta. If you like, just sit down, do your own desktop research. Why? So, Doc, I agree with you too on some of the issues. There was a broken trust. Kind of one year MPP need. And another thing is that the government at a point became complicit. And in fact, our analysis here 2020 was spot on, but they didn't see 169 to 137, almost a million difference to 530,000. Nobody was tracking the numbers. You know why? I want to know be a full scan. Look at COVID-19 expenditure. Listen me. Videos in where I channel for pretending so money. I've done this before. Look at how we spend money. It's me because Jane Naimo voter reading here the choir young by a couture rent. Every single person on OEDC will be a person be the MPs. Just go through it. Almost every Ghana museums and boss CEO no be kwetiwa David Asante and Koko Jakwe Krobe Mochre and Deben Siwe and Prayeso Kuzi Adenta Apaya Pius everybody. So they were all busy. So they couldn't even sit and analyze really the 2020 elections. And 2020 was when the free SHS and Kranom higher ripe home real school. 20 and no mama free food no. But look at the gap. Yes, every president reduces in the second term per the fourth Republican dispensation. Because second term, at least, they are even internal incophobia. But at least the parliament should have spoken to them some way. They didn't listen. Because they were blinded by the power. They were blinded by the authority then. And for me, all these things are things the NDC must learn from. Who will be that elderly person who will be treachery, a controlling affairs of His Excellency John Dramani? And now he sounded the warning to his MPs, the ministers. I said, "Wo be tied you are the first scandal, beba. But to be here, yeah, Koya danya bibi be kotoma, bibi be touchma. We look at what you do, because if you also send a good signal, the starter, obi abeda no say, hey, papa you say dia, and then you say bit me see. That is what we need. And no one single minister should override the entire interest of. At the point that comes to me now, and as they be a kind of writer, you'll be a papa pan wo me he. Was it true or false? It was true. Let's let the person stay aside. It took almost 2 years. Years, I mean, you had about February 2024. And when that man came, he did something. And I uploaded him on this channel. When he came, Ghana web video, the first public address, he apologized to Ghanaians.
We decided to restructure our debts because it was one of the requirements by the IMF. We started with the domestic debt exchange program. The domestic debt exchange program was a very successful program, achieving 95% participation. And on this note, I would like to appeal to the people of Ghana to forgive us. To forgive us. It is never the intention of any government to impose hardships on its people.
Something Ken Ofori-Atta never did. I mean, Anta. Pagana for cho. I was like, wow, at least Bibisa. Oh, Papa, we have some near Mekana, a Yatia Faso, Bimbisia. But that's a so she be send the baby American. Me young before that, Charlie, sorry. Mekana Samana Ajavas. Subscribe and click the notification. Me the video be to my ube now wait to me. I should be. And maybe more money, no. Because I have family members who went through certain things with their pensions and all that. So I've said it before, I don't want to rehash it. I just wanted to give you that context. And you say, yeah, I have personal issues with them, but that's it. Yeah, with this year. Or you certainly have a comment. Leave your comments in the comment section. We are sending the baby. Can hear Ghana so time I show you them. Take off yourself. Bye bye.